Hello students, welcome to CBSE Grade 9 Science Physics. In this video, we will continue our chapter Motion Part 2. In this lesson, we will understand some very important concepts of motion such as distance and displacement, speed and velocity, and acceleration. We will also learn how to interpret motion using graphs, including distance time graphs and velocity time graphs. Along with the concepts, we will solve numerical problems and graph-based questions to help you understand the topic clearly. This video will help you strengthen your fundamentals of motion, which is one of the most important chapters in Class 9 Physics. So, let us begin the lesson and explore the concepts of motion step by step. In this lesson on motion, we will focus on two important ideas. First, we will understand the basic concept of graphs. We will learn what a graph represents and how physical quantities are shown using axes. Next, we will study the distance-time graph for uniform motion. We will see how distance changes with time when an object moves at a constant speed and how this motion is represented graphically. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to read, interpret, and explain distance-time graphs for uniform motion clearly. Now let us understand an important question while drawing a graph. What quantity should we take on the x-axis and the y-axis? In any graph, we always deal with two variables. The independent variable is taken on the x-axis, and the dependent variable is taken on the y-axis. The independent variable is the quantity that we can change freely. The dependent variable is the quantity that changes because of the independent variable. Let us take a common example, time and distance. Here, time is the independent variable because time keeps moving forward on its own. So, time is taken on the x-axis. Distance depends on time. As time increases, the distance traveled also increases. So, distance is the dependent variable, and it is taken on the y-axis. Therefore, remember this rule clearly. Independent variable on x-axis and dependent variable on y-axis. In distance-time graphs, time is always on the x-axis, and distance is always on the y-axis. Distance-time graph for uniform motion. Now let us understand the distance-time graph for uniform motion. First, look at the table on the left. At 0 seconds, the distance covered is 0 meters. After every 5 seconds, the distance increases by 7 meters. This tells us that the body is covering equal distances in equal intervals of time. Now, let us see the graph. Time is taken on the x-axis and distance is taken on the y-axis. The scale used is important. On the x-axis, the centimeters represent 5 seconds. And on the y-axis, 1 centimeter represents 7 meters. We plot the points 0, 0, 5, 7, 10, 14, 15, 21, 20, 28, and 25, 35. After plotting these points, we join them. We get a straight line. This straight line shows that the distance is increasing uniformly with time. So, the speed of the body remains constant. Hence, when the distance-time graph is a straight line, the body is said to be in uniform motion. This is why the given distance-time graph represents uniform motion. Now let us move ahead in the chapter motion. In this section, we will learn how to find velocity from a distance-time graph using the slope method. We will understand why the slope of a distance-time graph represents velocity and how it is calculated step by step. Next, we will study the distance-time graph for non-uniform motion. we will observe how the graph changes when the distance covered is not equal in equal intervals of time. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to interpret distance-time graphs and clearly distinguish between uniform and non-uniform motion. Finding velocity from distance-time graph. Now let us find the velocity of the object from the given distance-time graph. First, remember an important point. Velocity is obtained from the slope of a distance-time graph. In this graph, time is taken on the horizontal axis and distance is taken on the vertical axis. To find the slope, we select any 2 points on the straight line. Let us choose the first point where time is 5 seconds and distance is 7 meters. Now choose the second point where time is 10 seconds and distance is 14 meters. Velocity is calculated by dividing the change in distance by the change in time. The change in distance is 14 meters minus 7 meters, which gives 7 meters. The change in time is 10 seconds minus 5 seconds, which gives 5 seconds. Now divide the change in distance by the change in time. 7 meters divided by 5 seconds gives 1.4 meters per second. Since the graph is a straight line, the velocity remains constant throughout the motion. Therefore, the velocity of the object is 1.4 meters per second and the motion is uniform. Velocity from distance-time graph. Velocity is obtained from the slope of a distance-time graph. This means velocity tells us how fast distance is changing with respect to time. In the given graph, time is shown along the horizontal axis and distance is shown along the vertical axis. To find the velocity, we choose any 2 points on the straight line of the graph. Let us consider the first point where time is 15 seconds and distance is 21 meters. Now consider the second point where time is 20 seconds and distance is 28 meters. Velocity is calculated as the change in distance divided by the change in time. First, find the change in distance. The distance increases from 21 meters to 28 meters. So, the change in distance is 7 meters. Next, find the change in time. The time increases from 15 seconds to 20 seconds. So, the change in time is 5 seconds. Now divide the change in distance by the change in time. 7 meters divided by 5 seconds gives 1.4 meters per second. Since the distance-time graph is a straight line, the velocity remains constant. Therefore, the velocity of the object is 1.4 meters per second, and the object is moving with uniform motion. Distance-time graph for non-uniform motion. This is a distance-time graph for non-uniform motion. On the horizontal axis, time is taken in seconds. On the vertical axis, distance is taken in meters. Let us observe the table and the graph carefully. At 0 second, the distance covered by the body is 0 meter. As time increases, the distance covered by the body also increases. However, notice an important point. The body does not cover equal distances in equal intervals of time. For example, in the first equal time interval, the distance covered is small. But in later equal time intervals, the distance covered becomes larger and larger. This means the speed of the body is changing continuously. Because the distance covered in equal intervals of time is unequal, the graph obtained is not a straight line. Instead, the graph is curved, which shows that the motion is not uniform. So, we conclude, the distance increases with time. But the distance covered in equal intervals of time is unequal. Hence, this distance-time graph represents non-uniform motion. In this lesson, we will learn about motion using graphs. First, we will understand what a velocity-time graph is for uniform motion. We will see how velocity remains constant with time and how this is represented on a graph. Next, we will learn how to find the distance traveled by an object using a velocity-time graph for uniform motion. We will understand that the distance traveled is obtained from the area under the velocity-time graph. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to read a velocity-time graph and calculate the distance traveled by an object moving with uniform velocity. Velocity-time graph for uniform motion. Finding distance from a velocity-time graph. In this lesson, we will study the velocity-time graph for uniform motion and learn how to find the distance traveled using this graph. Understanding the velocity-time graph. First, look at the velocity-time graph. On the horizontal axis, we take time measured in seconds. On the vertical axis, we take velocity measured in meters per second. The graph shows a horizontal straight line. This means the velocity of the object is constant throughout the motion. Since the velocity does not change with time, the object is said to be moving with uniform motion. Reading a point on the graph. Now, consider point B on the graph. At point B, the time is 3 seconds and the velocity is 50 meters per second. This tells us that the object moves with a velocity of 50 meters per second for 3 seconds. Finding distance up to point B. To find the distance traveled up to point B, we use the idea that distance traveled equals velocity multiplied by time. The velocity is 50 meters per second. The time is 3 seconds. So, the distance traveled up to point B is 150 meters. Understanding motion up to 6 seconds. Now, look at point C on the graph. At point C, the time is 6 seconds and the velocity is still 50 meters per second. This confirms that the velocity remains constant even after 3 seconds. Finding distance up to point C. Again, to find the distance traveled up to point C, the velocity is 50 meters per second. The time is 6 seconds. So, the distance traveled up to point C is 300 meters. Because the velocity remains the same at all times, the velocity-time graph is a horizontal straight line. The distance traveled by the object increases uniformly with time. Therefore, the object is moving with uniform motion. The distance traveled can be found by multiplying velocity with time. The area under the velocity-time graph gives the distance traveled. Let us now find the distance traveled between point B and point C. Distance up to point C is 300 meters. Distance up to point B is 150 meters. So, the distance traveled from B to C is 300 meters minus 150 meters, which is 150 meters. This distance is covered in equal time intervals at constant velocity. Hence, the velocity-time graph shows uniform motion. And the distance traveled is given by the area under the velocity-time graph, which, in this case, is a rectangle. Now, let us find the distance traveled by the object using the graph. In a velocity-time graph, distance traveled is equal to the area under the graph. Let us focus on the portion of the graph between 3 seconds and 6 seconds. Between these two time instants, the graph forms a rectangle. So, the distance traveled is equal to the area of this rectangle. To find the area of a rectangle, we need length and breadth. The breadth of the rectangle is the time interval, which is 6 seconds minus 3 seconds. So the breadth is 3 seconds. The length of the rectangle is the velocity, which is constant at 50 meters per second. Now, distance traveled equals velocity multiplied by time. That is 50 meters per second multiplied by 3 seconds. This gives a distance of 150 meters. The distance traveled by the object between 3 seconds and 6 seconds is 150 meters. Since the velocity remains constant and the graph is a straight horizontal line, the motion shown in this velocity time graph is uniform motion. In this lesson on motion, we will study the velocity time graph for uniformly accelerated motion. First, we will understand what uniform acceleration means. Next, we will learn how velocity changes with time when an object moves with uniform acceleration. Then, we will observe the shape of the velocity time graph for uniformly accelerated motion and understand why the graph is a straight sloping line. After that, we will learn how to identify acceleration from the velocity time graph. Finally, we will discuss the importance of the velocity time graph in analyzing motion. In this example, we will understand the velocity time graph for uniformly accelerated motion. The changes in the velocity of a car at regular intervals of time are given in the table. At 0 seconds, the velocity of the car is 0 meters per second. At 5 seconds, the velocity becomes 8 meters per second. At 10 seconds, the velocity becomes 16 meters per second. At 15 seconds, the velocity becomes 24 meters per second. At 20 seconds, the velocity becomes 32 meters per second. At 25 seconds, the velocity becomes 40 meters per second. At 30 seconds, the velocity becomes 48 meters per second. At 35 seconds, the velocity becomes 56 meters per second. Now we will draw the velocity time graph using these values. Take time along the horizontal axis and velocity along the vertical axis. Choose a suitable scale for the graph. On the horizontal axis, 1 centimeter represents 5 seconds. On the vertical axis, 1 centimeter represents 8 meters per second. Now mark the points using the values from the table. The first point is 0 seconds and 0 meters per second. The second point is 5 seconds and 8 meters per second. The third point is 10 seconds and 16 meters per second. The next points are 15 seconds and 24 meters per second, 20 seconds and 32 meters per second, 25 seconds and 40 meters per second, 30 seconds and 48 meters per second, and finally 35 seconds and 56 meters per second. After plotting all these points, join them together. You will observe that all the points lie on a straight line. Thus, for uniformly accelerated motion, the velocity time graph is a straight line. This shows that the velocity increases at a constant rate with time. However, in the case of non-uniformly accelerated motion, the velocity time graph can have any shape depending on how the velocity changes with time. Now let us understand how to find the distance traveled from a velocity time graph. Consider the time interval from 10 seconds to 20 seconds. From the graph, at 10 seconds the velocity is 16 meters per second, and at 20 seconds the velocity is 32 meters per second. The distance traveled during a time interval in a velocity time graph is equal to the area under the graph. In this case, the region between 10 seconds and 20 seconds forms a trapezium shape. To make the calculation easier, we divide this region into two parts. The first part is a rectangle and the second part is a triangle. First, calculate the area of the rectangle. The length of the rectangle is 10 seconds and the height is 16 meters per second. So the area of the rectangle is 16 multiplied by 10, which is 160. Next, calculate the area of the triangle. The base of the triangle is 10 seconds and the height is 16 meters per second. The area of a triangle is half multiplied by base multiplied by height. So the area of the triangle becomes half multiplied by 10 multiplied by 16, which equals 80. Now add the areas of the rectangle and the triangle. 160 plus 80 gives 240. Therefore, the distance traveled from 10 seconds to 20 seconds is 240 meters. This example shows that the distance traveled in a velocity time graph can be found by calculating the area under the graph. Now let us understand how to find acceleration from a velocity time graph. Acceleration is equal to the slope of the velocity time graph. To calculate the slope, we select 2 points on the straight line. Consider point A, which represents 10 seconds and 16 meters per second, and point B, which represents 20 seconds and 32 meters per second. The slope of the graph is calculated as change in velocity divided by change in time. First, find the change in velocity. 32 minus 16 gives 16 meters per second. Next, find the change in time. 20 seconds minus 10 seconds gives 10 seconds. Now divide the change in velocity by the change in time. 16 divided by 10 equals 1.6. Therefore, the acceleration of the car is 1.6 meters per second squared. Since the graph is a straight line, it confirms that the motion has uniform acceleration, meaning the velocity increases at a constant rate with time. Now, an important question arises. How can we be sure whether we need to calculate the slope of a graph or the area under the graph? Let us understand this clearly. First, consider the distance-time graph. In a distance-time graph, the slope of the graph represents speed. This means if we want to find the speed, we calculate the slope of the distance-time graph. However, if we calculate the area under the distance-time graph, it does not give any meaningful physical quantity. Now consider the acceleration time graph. In an acceleration time graph, the slope of the graph represents the rate of change of acceleration. But the area under the acceleration time graph gives the change in velocity. So remember these important ideas. In many motion graphs, slope tells us the rate of change, while area tells us the total quantity accumulated over time. Understanding when to use slope and when to use area helps us correctly interpret different motion graphs in physics. Now let us move to the next important topic in this chapter, equations of motion. The equations of motion help us describe the relationship between velocity, acceleration, time, and displacement when an object moves with uniform acceleration. These equations are very useful in physics because they allow us to calculate unknown quantities such as final velocity, distance traveled, or time taken during motion. In the next part, we will learn the 3 important equations of motion, understand what each variable represents, and see how these equations are derived and applied in solving numerical problems. Let us begin by understanding the first equation of motion. In the study of motion, there are 3 important equations that help us describe how objects move. These equations are known as the kinematical equations of motion, or simply the equations of motion. They describe the relationship between initial velocity, final velocity, acceleration, time, and displacement when an object moves with uniform acceleration. For example, a car moving on a road or a cyclist riding forward both follow the principles of motion. Using these equations, we can calculate how fast an object is moving, how long it moves, or how far it travels. In the next part, we will learn about each of the 3 equations of motion and understand how they are used in solving problems. Now let us understand the three equations of motion used in uniformly accelerated motion. Before learning the equations, we should know the meaning of the symbols used in these formulas. The final velocity is represented by the letter V. The initial velocity is represented by the letter U. The acceleration is represented by the letter A. The time taken for motion is represented by the letter T. The displacement, or the distance traveled in a particular direction, is represented by the letter S. The first equation of motion states that the final velocity is equal to the initial velocity plus acceleration multiplied by time. In words, we say final velocity equals initial velocity plus acceleration multiplied by time. This equation shows the relationship between velocity and time, so it is called the velocity-time relation. Now let us look at the second equation of motion. This equation states that displacement is equal to initial velocity multiplied by time plus half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. In words, we say displacement equals initial velocity multiplied by time plus half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. Since this equation gives the relationship between displacement and time, it is called the displacement-time relation. Now consider the third equation of motion. This equation states that the square of the final velocity is equal to the square of the initial velocity plus 2 multiplied by acceleration multiplied by displacement. In words, we say final velocity squared equals initial velocity squared plus 2 multiplied by acceleration multiplied by displacement. This equation shows the relationship between displacement and velocity, so it is called the displacement-velocity relation. These three equations help us solve many problems related to motion when the acceleration is uniform or constant. Now let us derive the equations of motion using the graphical method. Consider the motion of a bus moving along a straight line with uniform acceleration. Let us assume that at the initial time, which is 0 seconds, the velocity of the bus is u. This is called the initial velocity. After some time t, the velocity of the bus becomes v. This is called the final velocity. Let us represent the displacement of the bus during this time interval. Since we know the values of velocity and time, we can draw a velocity-time graph. On the graph, the horizontal axis represents time, and the vertical axis represents velocity. At time 0, the velocity is u, so we mark this point on the graph. At time t, the velocity becomes v, so we mark another point on the graph. When we join these 2 points, we obtain a straight line because the motion has uniform acceleration. From the graph, the initial velocity is represented by the line segment from point O to point D. The final velocity is represented by the line segment from point O to point C. The time interval is represented by the line segment from point O to point E. Now consider the vertical distance between points C and D. This distance represents the change in velocity. So we can say that the change in velocity is equal to final velocity minus initial velocity. Therefore, change in velocity equals v minus u. This graphical representation helps us understand how the equations of motion are derived using velocity-time graphs. Now let us derive the first equation of motion, which is the velocity-time relation. The first kinematical equation of motion states that final velocity equals initial velocity plus acceleration multiplied by time. To understand this, let us look at the velocity-time graph. Acceleration is defined as the change in velocity divided by time taken. From the graph, The change in velocity is represented by the vertical line between points C and D. This means the change in velocity is final velocity minus initial velocity, which is v minus u. So we can write that the line segment CD is equal to v minus u. Now, acceleration is equal to change in velocity divided by time. Therefore, acceleration equals CD divided by t. If we multiply both sides by time, we get CD equals acceleration multiplied by time. Now we know that CD is equal to v minus u. Substituting this value, we get v minus u equals acceleration multiplied by time. Rearranging the terms gives us the final result. Final velocity equals initial velocity plus acceleration multiplied by time. This is called the first kinematical equation of motion. Now let us derive the second equation of motion, which gives the relationship between displacement and time. The second kinematical equation of motion states that displacement equals initial velocity multiplied by time plus half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. To understand this, let us look at the velocity-time graph. In a velocity-time graph, the distance traveled by an object is equal to the area under the graph. From the graph, the shaded region represents a quadrilateral, which is formed by the points D, O, E, and B. Therefore, the displacement of the object is equal to the area of this quadrilateral. This quadrilateral can be divided into two simple shapes. The first shape is a rectangle, and the second shape is a triangle. So the total displacement is equal to the area of the rectangle plus the area of the triangle. First, let us find the area of the rectangle. The area of a rectangle is equal to length multiplied by breadth. In the graph, the length of the rectangle is represented by the line OE, which corresponds to time t. The breadth of the rectangle is represented by the line AE, which corresponds to the initial velocity u. Therefore, the area of the rectangle becomes u multiplied by t. Now let us calculate the area of the triangle. The area of a triangle is equal to half multiplied by base multiplied by height. In the graph, the base of the triangle is represented by the line DA, which is equal to time t. The height of the triangle is represented by the line AB, which represents the increase in velocity. From the graph, this increase in velocity is acceleration multiplied by time. Therefore, the height of the triangle becomes a multiplied by t. So the area of the triangle becomes half multiplied by t multiplied by a multiplied by t. This simplifies to half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. Finally, add the areas of the rectangle and the triangle. So the displacement becomes initial velocity multiplied by time plus half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. Thus, we obtain the second equation of motion. Displacement equals initial velocity multiplied by time plus half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. Now let us derive the third equation of motion, which gives the relationship between displacement and velocity. The third kinematical equation of motion states that the square of the final velocity is equal to the square of the initial velocity plus 2 multiplied by acceleration multiplied by displacement. To derive this equation, we again use the velocity-time graph. In a velocity-time graph, the distance traveled is equal to the area under the graph. In this case, the shaded region forms a trapezium. So the displacement is equal to the area of the trapezium. The formula for the area of a trapezium is half multiplied by the sum of the parallel sides multiplied by the height. Here, the two parallel sides array OD and BE and the height is OE. Therefore, displacement is equal to half multiplied by the sum of OD and BE multiplied by OE. From the graph, OD represents the initial velocity, which is u. BE represents the final velocity, which is v. And OE represents time, which is t. So we can write that displacement is equal to half multiplied by the sum of v and u multiplied by t. Now recall the definition of acceleration. Acceleration is equal to change in velocity divided by time. This means acceleration equals v minus u divided by t. From this, we can write that time equals v minus u divided by acceleration. Now substitute this value of time into the displacement equation. So displacement becomes half multiplied by the sum of v and u multiplied by v minus u divided by acceleration. Now multiply both sides of the equation by 2 multiplied by acceleration. This gives to multiplied by acceleration multiplied by displacement equals the product of v plus u and v minus u. Now we use an important algebraic identity. The product of v plus u and v minus u is equal to v squared minus u squared. Therefore, we get to multiplied by acceleration multiplied by displacement equals v squared minus u squared. Rearranging the equation gives the final result. V squared equals u squared plus 2 multiplied by acceleration multiplied by displacement. This is called the third kinematical equation of motion. Now let us solve a numerical problem based on the first equation of motion. A trolley moving down an inclined plane has an acceleration of 2 centimeters per second squared. We need to find the velocity of the trolley after 3 seconds from the start. First, let us write the given values. The initial velocity is 0 meters per second because the trolley starts from rest. The acceleration is 2 centimeters per second squared. To convert this into meters per second squared, we divide by 100. So the acceleration becomes 0.02 meters per second squared. The time taken is 3 seconds. Now we need to find the final velocity. For this, we use the first equation of motion. Final velocity equals initial velocity plus acceleration multiplied by time. Now substitute the values. Initial velocity is 0, acceleration is 0.02, and time is 3 seconds. So the final velocity becomes 0 plus 0.02 multiplied by 3. This gives 0.06 meters per second. Therefore, the velocity of the trolley after 3 seconds is 0.06 meters per second. Now let us solve another example based on the second equation of motion. A motorboat starts from rest on a lake and accelerates in a straight line at a constant rate of 3 meters per second squared for 8 seconds. We need to find how far the boat travels during this time. First, let us write the given values. The initial velocity is 0 meters per second because the motorboat starts from rest. The acceleration is 3 meters per second squared. The time taken is 8 seconds. We have to find the distance covered by the boat. Since the values of initial velocity, acceleration, and time are given, the most suitable formula to use is the second equation of motion. Displacement equals initial velocity multiplied by time plus half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. Now substitute the values. Initial velocity is 0, time is 8 seconds, and acceleration is 3 meters per second squared. So the distance becomes 0 multiplied by 8 plus half multiplied by 3 multiplied by 8 multiplied by 8. This simplifies to half multiplied by 3 multiplied by 64. Half multiplied by 64 becomes 32. Then 3 multiplied by 32 equals 96. Therefore, the motorboat travels a distance of 96 meters in 8 seconds. Now let us learn about another important type of motion called circular motion. In this part, we will understand three main ideas. First, we will learn what circular motion is. Second, we will understand uniform circular motion. And finally, we will see how to find the velocity of an object moving along a circular path. Let us begin with circular motion. Circular motion is the motion of an object along a circular path. In this type of motion, the object keeps moving around a fixed center. Examples of circular motion include the motion of a stone tied to a string and whirled in a circle, the motion of the hands of a clock, and the motion of a satellite around the Earth. Next, we will study uniform circular motion. Uniform circular motion occurs when an object moves along a circular path with constant speed. Even though the speed remains constant, the direction of motion keeps changing at every point on the circle. Because of this continuous change in direction, the motion is still considered accelerated motion. Finally, we will learn how to find the velocity of an object moving along a circular path. For an object moving in a circle, the distance covered in one complete round is equal to the circumference of the circle. Using this idea, we can calculate the velocity of the object during circular motion. Let us understand this concept step by step in the next section. Let us now understand uniform circular motion. First, imagine a body moving along a closed path. The path may have several sides like a square or a polygon. As the number of sides increases, the path gradually becomes closer to a circular shape. When the body finally moves along the circumference of a circle, this type of motion is called circular motion. In simple words, circular motion is the motion of a body along the circumference of a circle. Now let us understand uniform circular motion. When a body moves along a circular path with constant speed, the motion is called uniform circular motion. In this type of motion, the magnitude of speed remains the same, but the direction of motion keeps changing at every point of the circle. Because the direction of velocity is continuously changing, the velocity of the object also keeps changing. And whenever velocity changes, the object is said to be accelerating. Therefore, even though the speed remains constant, uniform circular motion is considered an accelerated motion. This is an important idea to remember in circular motion. Let us now understand uniform circular motion in more detail. Consider a body moving along a circular path of radius r. As the body moves along this circular path, it continuously travels along the circumference of the circle. If the body completes one full round of the circle in a certain time, we can calculate its speed. We know that speed is equal to distance traveled divided by time taken. In circular motion, the distance traveled in one complete round is equal to the circumference of the circle. The circumference of a circle is 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by r, where r is the radius of the circle. Therefore, the speed of the body moving in a circular path can be written as velocity equals to multiplied by pi multiplied by r divided by time. This formula helps us find the velocity of an object moving along a circular path. So, if we know the radius of the circle and the time taken to complete one revolution, we can easily calculate the velocity of the object. This is the basic relation used in uniform circular motion. Now let us solve a numerical problem based on average speed and average velocity. In motion, it is important to understand the difference between average speed and average velocity. Average speed is defined as the total distance traveled divided by the total time taken. On the other hand, average velocity is defined as the total displacement divided by the total time taken. Distance is the actual path covered by the object, while displacement is the shortest distance between the initial position and the final position along a particular direction. Because of this difference, average speed and average velocity may not always be the same. In the next example, we will apply these concepts and learn how to calculate average speed and average velocity step by step. Let us begin with type A numerical problems based on average speed and average velocity. Before solving the question, let us quickly recall the formulas. Average speed is defined as the total distance covered divided by the total time taken. In this case, we consider the entire path traveled by the object, regardless of the direction. Now let us look at average velocity. Average velocity is defined as the total displacement divided by the total time taken. Here, displacement means the shortest straight-line distance between the starting point and the final point, along with the direction. So remember this important difference. Average speed depends on distance, while average velocity depends on displacement. Using these two formulas, we can easily solve numerical problems related to motion. Now let us move to the first example and understand the solution step by step. Now let us solve the first numerical problem based on average speed. The odometer of a car reads 2000 kilometers at the start of the trip and 2400 kilometers at the end of the trip. The total time taken for the trip is 8 hours. We need to calculate the average speed of the car in kilometers per hour and meters per second. First, let us write the given values. The initial odometer reading is 2000 kilometers. The final odometer reading is 2400 kilometers. The time taken for the trip is 8 hours. Now we find the distance covered by the car. Distance covered equals final odometer reading minus initial odometer reading. So the distance becomes 2400 minus 2000, which gives 400 kilometers. Now we use the formula for average speed. Average speed equals total distance divided by total time. Substituting the values, we get 400 divided by 8. This gives 50 kilometers per hour. Now let us convert this speed into meters per second. We know that 1 kilometer per hour is equal to 5 divided by 18 meters per second. So 50 multiplied by 5 divided by 18 gives approximately 13.9 meters per second. Therefore, the average speed of the car is 50 kilometers per hour or about 13.9 meters per second. Now let us solve the second numerical problem based on average speed. Abdul drives from his home to school and calculates the average speed of this trip to be 20 kilometers per hour. On his return journey along the same route, there is less traffic, so his average speed becomes 40 kilometers per hour. We need to find the average speed for Abdul's entire trip. Let us assume the distance from home to school is x kilometers. Since Abdul travels from home to school and then returns from school to home, the total distance covered becomes 2x kilometers. Now let us calculate the time taken for each part of the journey. The time taken to go from home to school at a speed of 20 kilometers per hour will be distance divided by speed, which becomes x divided by 20 hours. The time taken for the return journey at 40 kilometers per hour will be x divided by 40 hours. Now the total time for the entire trip is the sum of these two times. So the total time becomes x divided by 20 plus x divided by 40. Taking the common denominator, This becomes 3x divided by 40 hours. Now we apply the formula for average speed, which is total distance divided by total time. The total distance is 2x, and the total time is 3x divided by 40. When we simplify this, the x terms cancel out and the result becomes 80 divided by 3. So the average speed for Abdul's entire trip is approximately 26.67 kilometers per hour. Now let us solve the third numerical problem based on average speed and average velocity. Joseph jogs from point A to point B along a straight road of 300 meters. He takes 2 minutes 50 seconds to reach point B. After reaching point B, he turns around and jogs 100 meters back to point C. This return part takes 1 minute. We have to find the average speed and average velocity for two cases. First, from A to B. Second, from A to C. Let us first convert the time into seconds. 2 minutes 50 seconds becomes 170 seconds. 1 minute becomes 60 seconds. From A to B. The distance from A to B is 300 meters. The time taken is 170 seconds. Average speed is calculated as distance divided by time. So the average speed becomes 300 divided by 170, which is approximately 1.765 meters per second. Now let us find the average velocity. Since the motion from A to B is along a straight line, the displacement is also 300 meters. Average velocity is displacement divided by time, so the value is also about 1.765 meters per second. From A to C. Now Joseph first runs 300 meters forward and then 100 meters backward. So the total distance traveled becomes 400 meters. The total time taken becomes 170 seconds plus 60 seconds, which equals 230 seconds. Average speed equals total distance divided by total time. So the average speed becomes 400 divided by 230, which is approximately 1.74 meters per second. Now let us find the average velocity. Joseph finally reaches point C, which is 200 meters away from point A. So the displacement is 200 meters. Average velocity equals displacement divided by total time. So the value becomes 200 divided by 230, which is approximately 0.87 meters per second. So we observe an important point here. Average speed depends on the total distance traveled, while average velocity depends only on displacement. Now let us move to numerical problems based on acceleration and the equations of motion. In the previous sections, we learned about acceleration and the three equations of motion that are used to describe the motion of an object moving with uniform acceleration. These equations help us calculate important quantities such as final velocity, displacement, and time during motion. The first equation relates velocity and time. The second equation relates displacement, time, and acceleration. The third equation relates velocity, displacement, and acceleration. By using these equations, we can solve different types of numerical problems involving moving objects. In the following examples, we will apply these equations step by step and learn how to choose the correct equation to solve each problem. Let us now move to type B numerical problems based on acceleration and the equations of motion. In these types of problems, we use the basic relations between velocity, acceleration, displacement, and time. First, we remember that acceleration is defined as the change in velocity divided by the time taken. In simple words, acceleration tells us how quickly the velocity of an object is changing. Next, we use the second equation of motion, which helps us find the displacement of an object. This equation tells us that displacement is equal to initial velocity multiplied by time plus half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. Finally, we use the first equation of motion, which gives the relation between velocity and time. According to this equation, final velocity is equal to initial velocity plus acceleration multiplied by time. Using these relations, we can solve many numerical problems related to motion with uniform acceleration. Now let us solve the second numerical problem based on acceleration and equations of motion. A car accelerates uniformly from 18 km per hour to 36 km per hour in 5 seconds. We need to calculate the acceleration of the car and the distance covered during this time. First, let us write the given values. The initial velocity is 18 km per hour. The final velocity is 36 km per hour. The time taken is 5 seconds. Before solving the problem, we convert the velocities from kilometers per hour to meters per second. 18 kilometers per hour becomes 5 meters per second. 36 kilometers per hour becomes 10 meters per second. Now let us calculate the acceleration. Acceleration is equal to change in velocity divided by time. So the change in velocity is 10 minus 5, which equals 5 meters per second. Dividing this by the time of 5 seconds gives 1 meter per second squared. So the acceleration of the car is 1 meter per second squared. Now let us calculate the distance covered by the car. We use the equation of motion that relates displacement, velocity, acceleration, and time. Displacement equals initial velocity multiplied by time plus half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. Substituting the values, we get 5 multiplied by 5 plus half multiplied by 1 multiplied by 5 squared. 5 multiplied by 5 equals 25. Half multiplied by 1 multiplied by 25 equals 12.5. Adding these values gives 37.5 meters. Therefore, the acceleration of the car is 1 meter per second squared and the distance covered is 37.5 meters. Now let us solve the third numerical problem based on equations of motion. A bus starts from rest and moves with a uniform acceleration of 0.1 meter per second squared for 2 minutes. We need to find the speed acquired by the bus and the distance traveled during this time. First, let us write the given values. Since the bus starts from rest, the initial velocity is 0 meters per second. The acceleration is 0.1 meter per second squared. The time given is 2 minutes, but we must convert it into seconds. 2 minutes is equal to 2 multiplied by 60, which gives 120 seconds. First, let us calculate the speed acquired by the bus. We use the equation that relates velocity, acceleration, and time. Final velocity equals initial velocity plus acceleration multiplied by time. Substituting the values, we get 0 plus 0.1 multiplied by 120. This gives 12 meters per second. So the speed acquired by the bus is 12 meters per second. Now let us find the distance traveled by the bus. For this, we use the equation that relates displacement, velocity, acceleration, and time. Displacement equals initial velocity multiplied by time plus half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. Substituting the values, we get 0 multiplied by 120 plus half multiplied by 0.1 multiplied by 120 squared. Half multiplied by 0.1 becomes 0.05. Multiplying this with 120 multiplied by 120 gives 720 meters. Therefore, the speed of the bus is 12 meters per second and the distance traveled is 720 meters. Now let us solve the fourth numerical problem based on the equations of motion. A racing car starts with a uniform acceleration of 4 meters per second squared. We need to find the distance it covers in 10 seconds after starting. First, let us write the given values. Since the car starts from rest, the initial velocity is 0 meters per second. The acceleration is 4 meters per second squared. The time taken is 10 seconds. We have to find the distance traveled by the car. To calculate the distance, we use the equation that relates displacement, velocity, acceleration, and time. Displacement equals initial velocity multiplied by time plus half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. Now substitute the given values. Initial velocity is 0, time is 10 seconds, and acceleration is 4 meters per second squared. So the distance becomes 0 multiplied by 10 plus half multiplied by 4 multiplied by 10 squared. Half multiplied by 4 becomes 2. 10 squared equals 100. Multiplying 2 by 100 gives 200 meters. Therefore, the distance covered by the racing car in 10 seconds is 200 meters. Now let us solve the fifth numerical problem based on the equations of motion. When brakes are applied to a car, it produces an acceleration of 6 meters per second squared in the opposite direction of motion. This means the acceleration is negative 6 meters per second squared. The car takes 2 seconds to stop after the brakes are applied. We need to find the distance traveled by the car during this time. First, let us write the given values. Acceleration is minus 6 meters per second squared. Time taken is 2 seconds. Since the car stops, the final velocity is 0 meters per second. First, we calculate the initial velocity of the car. For this we use the equation that relates velocity, acceleration, and time. Final velocity equals initial velocity plus acceleration multiplied by time. Substituting the values, we get 0 equals initial velocity plus minus 6 multiplied by 2. So this becomes 0 equals initial velocity minus 12. Therefore, the initial velocity is 12 meters per second. Now we calculate the distance traveled before the car stops. We use the equation that relates displacement, velocity, acceleration, and time. Displacement equals initial velocity multiplied by time plus half multiplied by acceleration multiplied by time squared. Substituting the values, we get distance equals 12 multiplied by 2 plus half multiplied by minus 6 multiplied by 2 squared. This becomes 24 minus 12. So the distance traveled is 12 meters. Therefore, the car moves 12 meters before it stops after the brakes are applied. Thank you for watching this video. I hope this lesson helped you understand the important concepts of motion in Class 9 Physics, including distance and displacement, speed and velocity, acceleration, and motion graphs. In the next video, we will continue this chapter with Motion Part 3, where we will explore more important concepts and numerical problems. So stay tuned for the next part coming soon. If you found this video helpful, please like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more educational content. You can also download notes and study materials from our website and join our Telegram channel for regular updates, worksheets, and learning resources. The website link and Telegram link are available in the description box. Keep learning, keep practicing, and see you in the next video.